Alrighty, folks. One of the things that you see each week is the one and only Millennial Mike. He gets to go through our comments and pull out the spicy questions and the well thought out ones, and he peppers me. But something I haven't done lately, and I'm remiss, is get him to contribute content because I think he brings so much value to the story and is a big contributor, one rental at a time. So, thank you, buddy. Thank you for being here today.
Happy to do it. Thanks for the call.
So the first thing I want to talk about with you today is obviously Millennial Mike. You are a millennial. I think there is a lot of kind of, I don't know, media attention. A lot of folks kind of attacking millennials for being lazy and quiet quitting and, all of these things. That is not who you are. I don't know if the media is wrong. I don't know if you're unique, but what I see in you is somebody who makes decisions quickly, somebody who commits, somebody who acknowledges they don't know everything and they go deeper and they try to network, and you take action. So I want to know what makes Millennial Mike tick, because apparently it's different than a lot of people.
uh, that's actually a very interesting question. And I think honestly, people should ask that about themselves all the time. Like, why am I doing what am I doing? What made me have the desire, the drive, the urge to reach for financial freedom, to have the audacity to think that I could have my own YouTube channel and, gain success, to be a police officer and a SWAT officer, like all these different things that I've done. What is the drive behind it? And I always joke that it was just the perfect amount of childhood trauma mixed with like neglect and abandonment issues, and that just put me right over the edge. If it was a little too much, I would have ended up in jail, or not enough, I would have been an entitled bum. So somehow we rode that line perfectly. But that's just the joke. That's what I say because I don't actually want to have a conversation and go deeper. It's interesting. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. And the siblings are like 2 years younger than 2 years younger than 2 years younger. We all had the same childhood. We all had similar experiences, but we've all led very different lives. So is it completely a product of our environment? Well, we were in the same environment. Why did we choose differently? Is it purely, are you just born with it? People here say that all the time. Some people are born a leader or born different or born older. Maybe there's a component of that that's true about people. I don't know. I'd like to think in my own life, really what I think of is when I was the oldest kid growing up in a very poor family. We grew up on Section 8. We had food stamps, multiple different fathers in and out of the house, or no male figure in and out of the house. I did not like being poor. And I saw it as my responsibility to my siblings. Like, I don't want to be poor. I don't want them to be poor. I got my first job at McDonald's at 14, making $5.25 an hour, which was the federal minimum wage at the time, so that I could buy school supplies for me and my siblings. I just hated being poor, not being able to go to soccer camp, not having the video game systems my friends did, always having to have hand-me-down clothes. And so I guess that lit a fire under me to want more and do better. And I know there's a lot of people in my generation that came from similar backgrounds. There's lots of hardworking millennials. I've interviewed many on my channel. You've had people on your channel. But there's also a bunch of deadbeat bums. And I think it comes to 2 things. I thank God every day for the horrible background and childhood that I had by conventional standards. But in my opinion, it was a wonderful childhood. In my opinion, it was the motivating factor and drive I needed. The last thing I would ever want to do would have been to be born wealthy, rich, successful, in the middle class with parents who gave me everything, because that would have crippled me like I've seen it cripple so many of my friends. So thank God I was lucky enough to be born dirt poor.
Let that sit there a minute. Yeah, that is, there's this fire that kind of smolders that you can call on anytime you need it. Anytime there's a challenge in front of you, whether it be having the gall to think you can house hack in a very expensive part of town, whether it meant becoming a SWAT officer at a very, very young age, right? When did you earn that? How old were you?
I was 28 years old, and I'd only been a police officer for like 3 years. I was one of like the youngest people to ever make it on the SWAT team.
I want people to hear that, right? That one of the youngest members at 28 to make the SWAT team, 3 years in the police force to make that. I'm going to guess that was done on purpose, right? You probably made the goal of earning that, I don't know what you call it, promotion or opportunity, years ahead of time. It wasn't just like you rolled out of bed and you're like, hey, I want to sign up for the SWAT team. They didn't just accept you, right?
Nope. Oh no, there's a very, very difficult and long, arduous selection process where you compete against many other people. It is tough, very tough to get on.
Well, no, let's talk about that. Because again, I think most things in life, including real estate investing, we'll get back to that in a minute, are tough. And if you're a soft little piece of wet tissue paper, you're not going anywhere. You're going to blame everybody else instead of taking personal responsibility. And you set a goal and you got on the track. And again, you were competing with people older than you, more experienced than you. You didn't let that hold you back. You didn't just, puss out and, not do it. You kept going.
Another thing I like to do is I make the joke when I got on the team, the two people who got on the team with me at the same time, there was three of us that got picked up. One of them was an Army Ranger and the other one served in Afghanistan multiple times and had been deployed for combat. So there was those two guys and then me. And so out of the three of us, I was the runt of the litter and I had to work double, triple hard to try to make up for that knowledge gap and make up for that experience gap, because everything we did, every drill we ran, every scenario that we went into for training or even in live operations, by comparison, I just looked like hot trash and it sucked. But because I stuck to it and on my own time, I would go to the range and I would study tactics and I would try to learn more about how to move through a house and clear a house. And I would research things just like I did with real estate. I was able to make up for that gap and get to the point where I'm a successful operator, which is the only other part of my life where I ever use the phrase operator. They call the people who are the active SWAT officers, they're called SWAT operators. So I'm a operator as a landlord and an operator as a SWAT guy. And I apply that mentality to everything. What I've learned from being on the team, I have applied to real estate. SWAT stands for Special Weapons and Tactics. You need that in everything in life. There's problems you're going to encounter anywhere in life, in any avenue you take, and you need to approach it with a mindset of what special weapons and tactics can I use to overcome this barrier that are outside of the box that will make me successful. Right now, it's creative financing and real estate. If it could be any personal goal you have, maybe you have a troubled child. I'm a single father with full custody of my son. His mom isn't in the picture. I haven't seen her in years. I have used a lot of special weapons occasionally and tactics to make sure that he doesn't turn out wrong.
Right. That's amazing. So I want to go back to you're 25 or 26 when you probably make this mental leap to saying, I want to be a SWAT officer. How you're 26 years old. I'll just say 26. What kind of cojones do you have to even have that as a goal? And it had to seem crazy to some of your peers. Like the people you were around at 26, I'm going to guess, aren't the same people you were around when you made it at 28.
No, absolutely not. You're the one who's famous for saying you got your list of rules behind you. You got to audit your network. And that goes for more than just real estate investing. That's just an overall life lesson. Yeah. If you're not around people who support you, you got to audit them. Or sometimes you just have to not talk to them. I'll tell you, my grandma did not like the idea of me becoming a cop or SWAT officer. She's like, that's too dangerous. And obviously you're not kicking grandma out of your life, but you just have to know who you can have those conversations with, because it's just too stressful for them. The more we talk about this, it's a little uncomfortable for me to talk about myself because I just am not used to going this deep. It makes me sad to realize how much of my life's kind of been motivated by pain and trauma. But what made me want to be a police officer?
It's fuel, man. True. It's fuel. It's fuel.
What made me want to be a cop, what made me specifically want to be on the SWAT team was I had a very dear friend of mine who was tragically murdered. And she was killed by her husband. And I recognized that because I didn't know enough about how to see the signs of domestic violence as they were occurring in a relationship, all the little tells, all the little cues, the broken phone, the having to rush home early because they didn't want to get in trouble, all these little markers that you grow to understand as you get older, and especially as you become a police officer and deal with it all the time. Because I didn't see those things, I never said anything to her. I never paid attention and said, hey, maybe you're in a bad situation. So she was killed. And to this day, I feel like if I had just known then at 23 what I know now at 33 almost, maybe she would still be here. And I wanted to become a SWAT officer specifically because when you become a police officer, you realize that even though you're in a lot of dangerous situations, you get an opportunity to help people. A lot of the times, the most dangerous situations where the most action is, where the most help is needed, regular police are kind of standing back, holding perimeter and containment. It's the SWAT officers that go in there and save a life, rescue a hostage, and do the very difficult work. And so wanting to make sure that people like the man who killed her get arrested and go to jail, that's done now by me, and I enjoy it very much.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that story. That has to be a painful memory to kind of keep out there, but it also serves as fuel so that you can save the next person and the next person for that. But yeah, back to your kind of point about rules. I haven't talked about them in a while, but yeah, these ORAT rules. Number 7, audit your personal network. Are they helping or hurting you? And I got to tell you, folks, when I think network today, like when I created that rule, when it was part of me 10 years ago, it was kind of the physical network, the people you are around, right? Show me your 5 friends and I'll predict your future stuff, which still is true. But today, especially I believe for the millennial generation who grew up having these at 10 or 11 or 12 years old or whatever it was, your social network, your people you've never met, but if you consume their content, they're in your network, dude. And there's a lot of people consuming content that's not helping them. How many people feel bad, envious, jealous, fat, poor, whatever, because of stuff they're watching on this stupid device? What do you think?
So, I mean, it's no secret that, like you said, whatever you choose to put into your life is going to affect you. We are products of our environment to a certain extent. You know, if you listen to depressing music, you're more likely to become depressed. If you just sit there in your emotional feelings and wallow in self-pity, it's not going to benefit you in any way. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't deserve to be able to complain on occasion. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to vent and talk about your struggles to people. You should. You should have a good network of people that you can go to. I know that in my life, I have friends, successful friends, that I go to for advice. If I have questions, I've asked advice on how to best raise my son many times. He's doing this. What should I do? I'm a first-time father going through it. And now, as some of my younger siblings have kids, I hope they come to me. Unfortunately, your phone, as powerful as a tool as it is, the internet, as wonderful as it is very destructive. There's good and there's lots of bad. It's a double-edged sword. It's funny that we always talk about things like doom porn. Well, just the last part, and I won't say it too many times for you two, but the last part of that phrase, you know, that type of stuff can pollute your mind. And that's why it's associated with things like crash and doom. And if you allow yourself to be manipulated by the dopamine hit you get from watching something like, oh, the market's crashing, maybe if I just wait, it'll be better. Or you allow yourself, I think the most treacherous thing you can do is to allow yourself to become complicit in the destruction of other people. So many of the comments on your videos and on my videos are from haters, people who are frustrated with their own inaction and their own lives. And so they reach out to tear someone else down. And I try my very best. If I watch a video, even if I disagree with it strongly and I think the people are making terrible choices, I try not to tear people down. Now, if you throw a comment at me, I will always fight back, but I don't pick the fight.
You end them. You end them.
Well, I try.
Yeah, I just think there's something in your story, and because you are a millennial, that I think we should celebrate. Now, again, let's be clear. This existed in Gen X and baby boomers. You're not unique, but I think there's a lot of folks in your generation that don't have the fuel that you have, that maybe were soft because it was a middle class and this, and they got what they wanted. And dude, they're almost handicapped or injured in some way. And they like run into a something and sit down and whine and cry like little babies. It's unfortunate.
There's a lack of hope, and hope is fundamental to the human spirit. You know, we can do it. It's amazing. If you read the book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. In that book, he's quoting, I believe it's author Nietzsche, maybe psychologist Nietzsche, and they're talking about, you know, life is suffering, but if you can find meaning in your suffering, you can live through anything. The people who gave, and the book is based around someone's horrible experiences in a concentration camp in the 1940s, World War
I
II.
read that years ago.
If you can find meaning in your life, and that meaning might have been to take care of a sick person in that concentration camp for you, that meaning might have been to make it home to your child, whatever the meaning is that you can find for yourself in life, you can live and endure through anything. But once you give up hope, once you lose hope, yeah, you just become useless. People would at that point just die. They could see it in their countenance as that prisoner would just give up hope. They would die very quickly. And that can be applied in a less traumatic way to the present, where I understand the economy sucks. Interest rates are high, prices are high, inflation is killing you. You're not getting the raises at work that you want. You know, we've got more broken families and broken households. You have more access to bad news now than anybody had throughout the rest of human history. You're constantly forced to compare yourself to other people your age or younger doing 10 times better than you. It's not fun. It doesn't feel good. But if you can put yourself around the right people, like me, when I hang out with Zuber or when I hang out with Dion and the Lumberjack, you can draw inspiration for people who have walked the path before you. You can set goals. You can make sure that you meet your expectations and align yourself properly. And then you can see success slowly over time, and you can maintain that hope. And what's best is you can instill it in other people. One of your number one goals, Mike, is to help 1 million people in your life. That's how your mission will live past your death. And I've adopted that myself because I know that as you've helped me and I help others, by extension, I'm helping you achieve your goal. And now I have a goal to help as many people as possible. That's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, I want to key on that word hope. And we're going to actually make that video number 2 today, because I agree with you. I think there's not enough people that have hope. And I think a lot of it's your personal network, this device. I think a lot of it's self-talk, a lot of it's consumption. But you're right. When you see the extinguish of hope, there's nothing left. So we're going to talk about something I'm putting on February 17th and 18th that I think I'm going to kind of pivot. And it's going to be about establishing hope and belief. But before we do that, where can people find you?
As always, if you just type in Millennial Mike to Instagram or YouTube, I'm there. I make videos. I make videos of Mike all the time. That's where I'm at.
There you go, buddy. Thanks again.